Hello, I'm Voltaire Tupaz. Welcome to Rappler Talk. We are talking to one of the six 2017 Ramon Magsaysay awardees, Getsi Shanmugam. Welcome to Rappler Talk, ma'am.
Thank you.
You are called the Amma of the children of Sri Lanka. Um, Tell us the story behind it.
I was a simple teacher, but before that, I was born in the hill capital of Sri Lanka, beautiful Sri Lanka. But later, we left the place, and then I was married and settled in Colombo, where I taught in a school. And before that, I was teaching in my old school, Mowbray, girls' school. Then, with the boys' school, I quietly got into this process of counseling because one of the priests chose me to enter into the field of counseling, and that's where I was trained especially in Sri Lanka at basic level and also in other countries to do work with children of war and violence.
That's why for more than 4 decades, I understand, you have been helping heal the wounds of war in Sri Lanka, the civil war in particular. Now, what's the situation now in Sri Lanka?
The civil war has come to an end, and at the moment Sri Lanka is slowly getting on its feet to enter into a harmonious world. I prefer the word harmony, but we call it reconciliation, trying to work or find a way out on reconciling with each other so that we create a beautiful, lovely Sri Lanka back again, become the pearl of the Indian Ocean. I used to feel, at a point I felt very sad, thinking we have become a teardrop, because people were crying, unhappy, we're talking about war. That means pain. But there was a time we were the pearl of the Indian Ocean, and we are going to be the pearl of the Indian Ocean soon, because we are slowly getting on to the path of reconciliation, happiness, fulfillment, especially looking at my children. Children are ours. Those children, their total well-being, we are all interested. There are some of us, not only some of us, all of us are interested in building a beautiful Sri Lanka. The mindset to be happy, beautiful.
Your story is so inspiring. In fact, it earned you the award, which is the Nobel Prize in Asia. How did you feel when you learned about the award, and how did you learn about it?
It was a surprise for me when I was called upon, and they announced it to me. But later I heard that a team had come to meet me, but I did not know that they were from this country. And I think they have their own way of finding out about what the work I had been doing, without even my knowing how they found out. After I came here, of course, I met the person, and she had another name, because she met me with another name. And it is all beautifully organized by this organization to find out the way the awardees are even selected, and the way we are looked after is also perfect.
You have been rewarded after 4 decades of your psychosocial work, but I understand at the time, 4 decades ago, it's not even as sophisticated as, the methods that we have now. How was it working with the widows of war, the children, the people in the communities? You belong to a minority group called Tamil. How was it implementing the programs that you have, talking to the children, given the context?
Yes, children, my focus was children all the time, because I started with the child world. Me as a child I respected, and my siblings I had to look after, because my mother left us early. So it was a case of children all my way. So at the point you are asking, the war areas, what happened? So when I entered into the war area, I was able to enter in through an organization, Save the Children, who caught me. I was just doing a volunteer job with the organization Subodhi and groups like that. We have Catholic groups running work with women and children, and families, mostly families. So there, I think somebody detected me, and I went up. So these Save the Children people, some or other, got to know that I was interested in children, and they took me, trained me specially in various areas, various places of the world, and sent me to these areas through permission from the government, MOD, that is the Ministry of Defense gives us the permission to go in. And in a way it was easier for me because I born in the hills of Sri Lanka, beautiful Sri Lanka, was born there, and then to go into the north and to get used to the different types of even Tamil. The Tamil speech is different in each area. So to harmonize, to get in, to understand is all a learning. And apart from the learning of the language, because you need the language to listen, main thing is heart listening. So when you say counseling, it's heart listening. You can't just listen. And more than the heart listening, there's something called non-verbal communication. When you enter a community, and even before entering, because you have to pass through checkpoints, pass through areas, there's so much of learning that you get. I cannot explain the whole gamut of learnings that you get in a war situation.
Well, as you said, you went through a lot, braced bombings, even threats of arrest, I understand. So it was not always as easy as getting a permit from the defense ministry, but also the sacrifices and the difficulties that you had to face. Can you cite a particular example of a situation where it was really difficult for you to reach a community, just to talk to the children, to the victims, to the displaced?
Reaching community means you have to pass through two major checkpoints. One is the government checkpoint, and the other is the other part of the country, the fighters. So government section was easier because we are checked properly and they know who we are. So we get through, and when we reach the other side also we are checked again. So their suspicion is greater because why did we get permission, whether we are on this side or that side. So main problem was to be not partial. I am Tamil, but I have to be not partial, saying I am from this, I am from that area. Human, the children are human. So be human was the main push, and just be with the children. So it was not easy at all to enter into these areas. I was not arrested, but questioned very often, very deeply, very systematically, and then they allow us to enter into this world.
You're a member of the minority group,
Yes.
Tamil.
Yes.
Did the cultural context in any way make your work more difficult to reach out to these communities?
Really, though we had all these problems, we are brothers. Brothers, sisters. There's no big division. I don't know why we created these terrible divisions and why we created all these fights in our little country, that beautiful pearl of the Indian Ocean. We created all this, and there's a history which is not necessary now, but you will know, everybody knows that history. But what I would like to say is, working with the women and children, in spite of pain and trauma of war, was not easy, because I myself had to train and have that kind of some feeling inside me. I should know who I am, why I am there, not to get names and all that. You are with them, and counseling theories, all the psychologists giving you or counselor is not the main thing. It's for that moment of communicating with that person or the group was important. And very often it was easier to deal with groups, because when they are displaced and they are sitting in groups where they don't know what to do, it's easier to be with them, though easier in one sense to meet the group, but organizing, youth helped me. Always the youth helped me. So they organize, ammas go here, first ammas will meet, then that is the mothers, then the others. Men are always on the periphery, they won't come inside. Then the children, they divide and say we bring the youth. Then it was easy to handle, go through the youth. And the simple thing we created, say getting together in a camp situation, have a tea group. So they thought, what tea group? I said, just to have tea with each other. Everybody wanted a cup of tea. Sri Lankans tea people, Ceylon tea. So then the organization immediately gave sent us help in distributing tea in camps, but teach them how to make the tea. But the support system will have learned how to talk to them, how to observe them, then find out who needs the support, and then they are sent to special areas.
In the many conversations you had with children over tea, do you remember a particular story which really struck you, which moved you, which until now you still remember and it has made an impact on your work?
Yes, there are many stories of children, fighting against war. One group, I could say, from a small island close to Batikalo, that's the eastern province. They call it Nasivantivu, small island like. And they were caught between the two factions. Both factions, were fighting, and the island was there. And children had to lie down. And the primary schools were there, but no big schools. So to go to the bigger school, they needed a bus, and that bus was stopped. The path was broken. So the way we prepared the youth, we worked through youth group very often. So the youth got together and they trained themselves to go and meet the government servants and ask for help. Then they met the army people. They were very nice to them. When children go, they are nice to them. And they opened the path. Then they went to school. Education was important. Today, if you go to that island, there's a big school. UNICEF built them a big school. They have progressed a long way. And that youth group that we trained from that school, the first girl who was the secretary became the first graduate of that little island. She entered university and she became a graduate. So we were really proud of her, and she became the leader with a small team. But the youth group was divided into two like this. The children who was intelligent and going to school was studious. The children who were more practical and a little older ran, they got a boat system to run along, get to places, and so many things in the village setup was planned by them, by the group.
Did it not create any animosity between the two groups?
No, because they were together. It's one group, but they know they want to go to school. So the schooling, but they come back and they are together. No fight on that. The children, yes.
There's a similar situation in the Philippines. There's an ongoing war, an armed conflict in the southern part of the country, particularly in Marawi City, where local terrorists, inspired by the ISIS, have taken over parts of the city. Although the government is winning, of course, at the end of the day, the people are at the losing end. You have teachers leaving their schools and they're displaced. They're now staying with their relatives in nearby towns and other provinces. You have children continuing their studies in other schools. Others have stopped going to school because of the situation there. So what can you tell counselors, psychosocial counselors, from your experience, what can you teach them?
It's very painful. What you told me, it was like me going through, but the counselors, you want a message from me. One thing is, the counselors, even the teachers, they could all, become support system, and the youth also. So they have to first sit down quietly for a while, whatever religion they belong to, and think who I am, who am I at this moment, who am I now? There's a problem here. What can I do? So when you say who am I and sit down and find out who you are, you become aware of your qualities. I have some good qualities. I want to do something, and they jump in. Not in a big way, not even a fast way. Maybe a few days they'll be sad and worried what to do. But those who are, keen, those who have that spark of love, everybody has it. We call a big name, resilience in children and people. So that resilient power will be there in these people who are now suffering. But if one or two people can really make them bloom a bit, or sparks become brighter, they can wake up. And also remember, you are strong, you have the strength, therefore all these people have something special. So let me be with the special gifts they have and help them to face this terrible situation, whatever it is, because I am not very clear on this. But whatever it is, just face the challenges with a positive mind, open mind. We can win it. We can get over it. We have that, what shall I say, the stamina and that whatever, some might call it a divine spark or whatever spark within them will really give that light to them. Not just, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, we have nothing, we have lost everything. Even without anything, you can start because the land is there and air is there. So start with the minimum, please, and work hard.
Let us please tell us more about the methodology, because I have spoken with teachers, for instance. The spark, you can see the spark within them. The hope is still there, but at this point, it's still being overwhelmed by the crisis because they are also victims. But they are aware that it's their responsibility as teachers to continue teaching the students. And now there's an added burden. Well, it's not really burden to them, but clearly it's an additional work on their part to help heal the wounds of the conflict. What would you tell them method-wise, methodology-wise? we now know the approach, open up, but in particular, how can they immerse into that
situation? It is a very difficult question. You are touching on something called healing of memories. But even now they haven't got into that memory level. They are just at the beginning. So it's very hard. The pain is so, bleeding now. When we were working, the scars had appeared. The bleeding stopped and the scars were there when we were trying to do this healing of memories. Memories won't die. It is very, very difficult. But there are systems, there are ways, and there are groups. And we are trying to learn something from South Africa. There's a group, Bishop Tutu and others had developed. There's a university working on these peace groups. Not that we could take everything that they had experienced, it's their way. Sri Lanka had our way, and you are now beginning in another way. I'm so sad to hear that, but I really hope and pray that, something will dawn on these people who are fighting and, the victims and, who, whatever that groups, I don't want to mention names, but let us love even those people who are trying to destroy. It's only that basic love that can really make them, when they fight, we fight, they fight, we fight. Then it becomes serious and finally there's nothing left.
But the case is that there are historical injustices that have been done, and basically they're the source of the conflict. How do you balance your anger, your rage against injustice, and then while tapping into your the calm side of you, trying to understand or love your enemy? I mean, how do you achieve that as a counselor?
You very strongly mentioned that feeling called anger and hatred. These two things are, strong in this kind of setup. Anger and hatred just, comes up. And with that, there are so many other feelings, jealousy, selfishness, all those things, come banging into people. So the main thing to start with is understanding my own feelings, and as a counselor, you can't go with anger. I might be angry. Why are these people doing this, doing that? They are human beings doing it. Love them. Go with. I really don't know the reason, but try to understand. But before that, who is with you? Try to understand. As I said, even to stay and drink a cup of tea, even without a cup of tea, even without talking, be with them for a while. But there is a system that people know, and there are counselors who know these things. So you can quietly get the people together. They will become counselors very soon, because they are listening to each other. We call it the peer group. We are all suffering. So why should we all suffer? Let us get together and build our system or build our life on the strength we have. The little what do you call those bricks that will help to build that, life situation. Feelings, we have to understand, emotional part is hurt in this world. Emotional part, we are just giving money for physical healing, medical healing, this and that. Where are we helping people on the emotional side? That is the feeling side you asked me. So let us help. My feeling I understand. Let me be loving. So, and then my friend will also understand his feelings, and then we get along. Relationship is the basic that we have to learn. We are all born of relationship, and we are now quarreling.
As you said, we are all human beings,
Yes.
susceptible to various emotional or psychological,
Yeah.
all these factors brought about by conflict. But was there a time, as a counselor, was there a time when you felt you were failing, either yourself or the community? Was there a low point in your career, in your work, which you
Yes.
remember? And how
Yes.
did you, what did you learn from it?
You know, when you're trying to do your best, you will get loads of criticisms, and then sometimes because you're unable to fulfill certain ideas or whatever the system wants, and you can't fulfill because you're more with the people, and you really bang with organizations and others, and you are at that low level, and you, oh, why did I start this? You have that feeling. But again, when you sit and think, the demand, the need, the wants within the people, the cry will call you, and you go back. Some or other, something pulled me back again into them. So I don't think I ever thought of leaving them alone. That's why I think I'm still there. We are still, a small group is working hard, trying to develop this thing called, I shouldn't be saying mental health, we say, but the mental health means the emotional feeling part of every child, every person. Value human life.
And does it extend to disaster situations, natural disasters, for instance?
Yes.
What's the difference in dealing with victims
Natural disasters, we had a
natural
tsunami
disasters,
at soon after Christmas.
in Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka. That was a time I was working with a Canadian group at that time, and the person visited all over and called me and said, as usual, Amma, what shall we do? So do something. That's where we created the tea groups. So we had, you know, various groups where we had people working in relief camps. We even set up camps here and there. So we had a support system, so we could train them on how to just make a cup of tea, get them together. From then on, we started step by step to identify the people who needed help.
You started as a 19-year-old teacher. Looking back, how did it change you?
Maybe my life, you know, at the beginning I had to care for my siblings, my brother and two sisters. And then that, of course, may have been the basic feeling in me that, and the people who were workers there called me Amma immediately. So from then on, I think something in me made me mature. And at a point when I was doing my training, I found out that I had missed even my youth because I had become too much of an adult. So those were problems I had to deal with when I learned to become aware of myself, where are my gaps. So I had to learn to grow before I became a counselor, proper counselor.
Okay. To wrap this discussion up, what does this mean to you as far as Sri Lanka is concerned? How important is this award to Sri Lanka? How did they receive your nomination and then your...
I don't know now because one or two the TV stations called me for an interview like before I came here, and media papers came to me and had a chat with me, and they published in the papers. A Tamil paper and two English papers caught me and came home and had long chats with me. But this award is for my Sri Lanka, and also it's for the people of Sri Lanka. It's somebody has found out work has been done. It's not me alone. You know, it's teams, groups, and their tears, their pain. So it belongs to the group I worked with. So this is for Sri Lanka. And I wish Sri Lanka will become again the pearl of the Indian Ocean and be happy, all of us to be happy.
Getsi, it was nice talking to you. Congratulations. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you to having this nice conversation.
We've been talking to Getsi Shan Mugam, one of the 6 Ramon Magsaysay awardees. I'm Voltaire Tupas. Thank you for watching Rappler Talk.